Hello everyone, it's Armando. So thank you for joining me. This is the first video in a series of videos that are going to take you along the path that you're going down on in the next few weeks or months. Okay, so whether your dog is doing some kind of board and train with me or your dog is doing some in-home sessions, it really comes down to whether I do the work or you're doing the work and I'm coaching you through the process. But the structure, the means of getting to that end is very much the same, right? The quality may vary, but the means is going to be the same. So what you want to keep in mind is that when your dog comes to me, if I do a board and train, for example, and a dog comes to me in my home, they come into a very structured environment. So in a sense, you want to duplicate that within your home environment as well. So the very first thing, and I've got a few words up here, they may appear random, a few phrases may appear random, but I want to go through them one by one and explain how this is going to pertain to you, because you and your dog are going to be going through some changes within the next few weeks or so. Your dog is clearly going to be going through some changes because he's going to become more responsive, more attentive. There are going to be certain skill sets that your dog is going to learn, which he or she may not have in place now. But also, in order to maintain those behaviors, in order to make sure that they not only kind of stay in a static state, but because you don't want them to stay in a static state, you want them to grow and improve over time, you're going to need to change. You're going to really, in essence, need to be the person that your dog needs you to be. Now, what I'm going to go through here very quickly can vary from person to person, dog to dog, household to household, because not every dog is the same. Not every dog owner is the same. Not every dog owner needs the same thing from their dog. Not every dog has the same issue. So some of you are going to come to me with a dog who's got some kind of serious behavioral issue. Maybe there's aggression, resource guarding. There's some kind of issue that you perceive to be a very serious thing that needs to be stopped immediately or improved upon. Some of you don't have a major issue in terms of a borderline dangerous issue like aggression, but you have a dog that you feel or could probably identify as being just out of control, right? Your dog doesn't listen to you, dog tunes you out, the dog does what he or she wants whenever they want, they give in to their impulses, blah, 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 right? So maybe you have a dog that doesn't fit into either one of those categories. So you don't have an aggressive dog, you don't have a really out of control dog. Your dog is pretty mild-mannered, very easy to deal with, complies, listens to you for the most part, but you want to kind of teach them a few skills. You want your dog to learn to be off leash, for example. You want to have a little more control on the leash. You want to have a little more control around the house. Either way, your dog is going to fall along the lines of the work pattern and the structure that we're going to create, right? Because we're going for the same skill sets, except that in one, you may need to make a larger transition as the individual, as the dog owner, as the dog parent, as the dog coach, as the leader, than in another. So in other words, in one, you may have the relationship that is already suitable for the kind of issues that you're dealing with. So you don't have maybe a major issue and you just want your dog to learn some kind of behaviors. Maybe you just need to kind of learn the techniques, know how to build upon them, make them stronger over time. But then again, maybe you've got on the other end, the bigger issues, right? The aggression issues or the really out of control dog, because that can be defined as a big issue. Your dog, it doesn't have to be dangerous for your dog to just tune you out and make you irrelevant. In that sense, you may need to go further than just simply learning a few techniques. You may need to go to the place where you evolve the way in which you are thinking about the dog, first of all. You evolve the way in which you think about the dog. So therefore, you think about the dog differently, and now you act towards the dog differently, right? Your manner of speaking, your manner of engaging with the dog differs from what they were in the past. Because here's the truth of the matter. In many instances, when you've got either some kind of aggression issue, serious behavioral issue, or you have a dog who just tunes you out, just like you're not relevant to me, I'm just going to do whatever I want. In many senses, in many cases, the relationship that the dog has to the human or humans in his or her life is directly tied to the behavior, right? And I'm not saying that your dog doesn't love you, the dog doesn't think about you affectionately, or really, to be honest, dogs don't love in the same way that we do, but that the dog isn't very well bonded to you. Your dog may be, in fact, very, very strongly bonded to you, but there's a difference between being bonded to you and respecting you, feeling that the dog is accountable to you. Your dog may not feel that he is accountable to you. Your dog may not feel that you're going to hold him accountable to certain behaviors. Therefore, your dog may not respect you and make it very, very easy for that dog to just tune you out and ignore you. And that means that when you go through this process, through this evolution of training that your dog is, that you may need to change certain major things about you, about the way, again, that you think about the dog and handle the dog. And that can be difficult for some people, to be completely honest. With some people, they're gonna recognize what their issues are, what their shortcomings are. They're gonna improve upon it. They're gonna roll with it. And others, that's gonna be their sticking point. They're not gonna be able to get past that because they can master the techniques. They understand how to kind of keep the skills in shape or in place, but the dog still at times kind of ignores them or just entirely ignores them, or some of the bad behaviors just come back and resurface over time. Again, it's a reflection of the relationship that the dog has with you. The dog just doesn't feel like you're the kind of person who's going to put me in my place or stop me from just doing whatever it is that I want and giving into my impulses. So the relationship really, really is the glue that holds everything together. You cannot really take a dog, in a sense, rehabilitate a dog, if that's how you want to define it, and improve upon the dog's situation, skill sets, behaviors, mindset, without transforming the relationship that the dog has with you. Techniques and behaviors alone won't do it. The behaviors are the tools, the skill sets, place, the recall, getting more focus from the dog. All of those are tools that are really going to be incorporated by the whole machinery of the relationship that the dog has with you. So I start that off to let you know that that may be the one thing that you're really going to need to focus on in this whole process. I'll be there to coach you through the process of not only teaching your dog the skills. If you're doing it yourself, if I'm doing it, then your dog's going to come back with a whole set of fancy new skills. I'm going to teach you how to maintain those skills, how to work those skills, the techniques, in other words, right? But it's up to you to change the relationship that the dog has with you and the way that the dog sees you. And you're going to do that through the incorporation of these skills within your life. And they're going to be lifestyle skills. And that's the key. A lot of this, and I'm going to talk about, and the whole training, everything has to be, in a sense, lifestyle skills. Especially during the first 30 days. The first 30 days, for example, after a board and train, or the first 30 days of your initial attempt at training the dog yourself through the coaching program that I have, really are crucial because it's make or break. In that time frame, the dog is going to recognize either we're doing things differently, you're really kind of getting a little more structured, you're holding me accountable, you're holding my feet or my paws to the fire, in other words, right? And I'm going to do what you are telling me to do. Or the dog's going to realize, you don't know what you're doing. I don't feel so confident that you're going to be able to stop me. You see, you're not stopping me. I'm just going to go ahead and give in with my impulses and do whatever I want. So the first 30 days are crucial for you. It is make or break. In other words, going back to what I just said a second ago, all of these skills have to be lifestyle skills. So, for example, my dog, who's a senior dog, he's I think 11, 12 perhaps now. I've taught him since he was very early on that he has to sit by the doorway. So when I have an open doorway and I'm about to head out, I could have my arms full with a bunch of stuff, trash that I need to take out to the garbage can outside or whatever it is that I need to bring into the car. I can't just have him dash out the door. So I make him sit, I'll open the doorway, and he will sit until I give him the release cue. In other words, until I give him permission to go out. And to this day, I still make him do it every single time. It's not sometimes, it's not when I feel like it, it's not when I have the time for it. It is every single time. And that's what lifestyle skills are. They're not sometimes behaviors. They are every day. This is the way we eat at the table, for example, with a small child as an example. This is the way that we eat. This is how we wash our hands. This is it. This is the way we live our lives. We brush our teeth in this manner. This is what we do. This is the routine. It's got to be no different with you and your dog. And to break that chain and to break that pattern and not make it lifestyle skills means that you're randomizing it. You're doing it sometimes and sometimes you're not. And your dog is not stupid. Your dog is not stupid. They are creatures of habit, of routine. They quickly learn what's up. They quickly learn who's going to stop me, who isn't going to stop me, whose buttons I can push, who is going to be the wall that I have to really listen to and focus on, and what do I really have to do, or what can I try and get away with sometimes? So everything has to be a lifestyle skill. Okay, so on that, let's move on to our first note, which is, again, this is the structure that I was talking about, right? But what does the structure really mean? Structure means that you are going to start imposing barriers, boundaries, limitations on your dog and your life. And again, the more serious the issue is, the more that you're going to need more of this: boundaries, limitations, barriers. Because if you've got one of those kind of behavioral issues, or you have a dog who just doesn't listen to you, gives into impulses, and I've had all kinds, really. I have had dogs who jump through windows and screen doors just to get a squirrel outside. They just no control over their impulses. They just do whatever they want. So this becomes more important, more crucial, more vital when you've got those kind of dogs who have really no way to curb their impulses, who are just allowed to do whatever they want, when they want, how they want, where they want. You want to start imposing barriers and limitations. And that means that, there may be, and I'm not going to go into specifics here, because the specifics I will give you as we discuss your individual case. But there may be things that I suggest that you do differently than what you're doing now. So for example, if you've got an aggression issue outdoors, you take your dog outside, you put him on leash, and he or she loses their marbles outside when they see another dog, or perhaps another human, because there can be human aggressive dogs as well. Maybe I'm going to tell you, your dog barking at the window or everybody who walks by the neighborhood is not a good thing. You need to stop that immediately. So that's a limitation, and that's a barrier that you may need to impose upon your dog. You may need to restrict the freedom that they have. You may need to crate your dog more on a consistent routine, have some kind of rhythm inside the crate and outside the crate, so to speak, right? So there may be areas of the house that your dog is not allowed to go to. Again, we'll discuss that. There may be things that you may not be allow him to do during the walk. There may be kind of tools or equipment that you may not be allowed to use. And I say allowed, I can't force you to do it. It's all going to be a suggestion, but my suggestions are going to be strong ones. Like, this is not good. This is going to lead to a problem. So, for example, if you're walking your dog on a flexi lead, and then you complain how your dog doesn't listen to you, I'm going to tell you, you need to start imposing some limits, some barriers here. Flexi lead is not good. It's going to make the dog tune you out, right? So when your dog, again, comes into, if you have a dog who is doing a board and train with me, if your dog is doing a board and train with me, when he comes into my house and into my world, he comes into a very heavily structured environment initially. And again, going back to my dog doesn't live a very structured life. I make him sit. He's got certain rules, again, just like the child analogy, like making sure that the child has table manners, knows how to wash his hands afterwards, wash the dishes, brush his teeth in the morning, in the evening, so on. It's routine for my dog. So it's not for example, it's not dogmatic. It's not incredibly regimented. He doesn't live a regimented life at all. The dog does what he wants all the time. But he has the kind of relationship with me where he knows I'm going to hold him accountable for behaviors that I consider to be unwanted and undesirable, right? And initially, during the first year or so of his life, maybe even less, his movements were heavily limited. He had certain boundaries. He had things that he couldn't do, places he couldn't go. So keep in mind that there may be things that I'm going to tell you, hey, this is something that you need to stop. This is something that you need to limit on him. And again, it really does vary from case to case. If you have one of those dogs, as I said earlier, and he's perfect dog, or she gives you no problems inside or outside, all you need to do is have them learn certain skills. I want them to go to place. I want my dog to be off leash. Then this may not apply to you. But if you have a dog who just tunes you out, gives you the finger every time you call them, or in some way, you have some kind of behavioral issue, then you're going to need to start creating a more regimented life and routine, okay? And you want to kind of think about this as boot camp of sorts. Some people call my program, my board and train program, a doggy boot camp. I don't call it boot camp, but it's still the same way. I was in the military. I went to boot camp, and boot camp at the time was, I can't remember if it was 6 or 8 weeks, but it was heavily regimented. And some people think, well, after you get out of the boot camp, do you have to live your life in that regimented manner? And the answer is no, I don't. Certainly there are certain rules, regulations that are very different than civilian life, but I didn't have to live my life in that heavily, heavily regimented manner. But during my time in boot camp, it was heavily regimented, heavily regimented. I had to talk a certain way, look a certain way, get my hair cut a certain way, dress a certain way, go to sleep at a certain time, wake up at a certain time, fold my clothes a certain way. I had to walk, I had to run a certain way. So it was heavily regimented. But the point is that once that boot camp period is over, I knew the rules. I knew what was acceptable, what was not acceptable, what I can do, what I could not do, what was going to get punished, and what I can get away with, right? And it's no different with your dog. So during this is why I say the 30 days after your dog either comes back from the board and train, from my house to your house, or 30 days during which you are doing the in-home program, those 30 days are vital. They are everything. You don't think that you can be sloppy during those 30 days and then pick up on the second month because your dog has already figured out the game. And it's going to be more challenging, and it's just not going to be, it's just not going to work the same way. Okay, so you are going to apply some structure to your life. Again, I'll give you specifics on what that is as I speak with you individually, and it's going to include more than likely some kind of barriers, boundaries, and some limitations. All of this lines up with this, okay? So what is it? What's permission-based training? Permission-based training is exactly what your dog is doing and what you want from your dog, right? In other words, your dog doesn't do certain things without your permission. In other words, your dog needs your consent to do certain things. So whether that's going to place, or whether it's off leash, or the door, or food, because I teach dog control around food. Some dogs have food issues, some do not, but I incorporate it into the training. And that means, for example, if you get your dog to go to a designated spot, that dog does not leave that spot or that place until you give them permission. If I open the doorway and I make my dog sit first, then open the door, that dog does not leave that spot until you give permission. If the dog comes to you after a recall, maybe you're out on a trail or a hike, you call the dog to you, the dog does not leave your side until you give them permission to go back and re-engage with the environment, right? So it's permission-based training, and this leads to this. In addition, the structure combined with all the skills that you have in place, the relationship that you now have in line, all leads to a dog who just seeks permission before he just gives in to his or her impulses, okay? So that's that. Now, reward unwanted behaviors. I'm going to loop this into this because it's pretty much the same thing. We have, and this is something that you want to be mindful of, okay? And again, a lot of this, if not everything, I will discuss with you individually when we meet one-on-one. But many of us have ways of creating problems. We humans either we create problems with our dogs that never existed, or maybe we have a dog that has some kind of baggage of their own. There is a pre-existing condition or issue or bad behavior, and we worsen it, right? We make it worse over time. And generally speaking, dogs unwanted behaviors and bad behaviors get worse through practice, through repetition, through just the ongoing drilling of that same behavior again and again. Whether it's aggression or pulling on a leash or just running out the door, the dog just continues to do it and learns this is reinforcing, this is rewarding, I can get away with it. So the behavior just continues on, okay? So you want to be mindful that you could be doing things. In fact, you probably are, and so once in a while I catch myself doing it as well, that you could be doing things that could be contributing to some of your dogs, if not all of your dog's bad behaviors and unwanted problems. The very same issues that you are calling me about, in other words, could be somehow worsened or being worsened by you. So you want to be mindful of that. And again, it's very vague. I can't give you specifics unless I speak with you, right? And I know what your situation is, and then I can pinpoint an issue and I say, yeah, this is something that you don't want to do. You want to be able to stop that because this is leading to that other thing. But you want to start becoming a little more vigilant, more aware of how you interact with the dog, how you engage with the dog, how you possibly contribute to the problem by, giving in to the dog at times when you shouldn't be giving in to the dogs, the way that you speak with the dog, the way you allow the dog to push you, the demanding behaviors, all of that could be contributing to unwanted behaviors, okay? And maybe it has nothing to do with the way that you're engaging the dog. Maybe it's just what you are just allowing to happen. What you allow is what you get. So maybe you are allowing something, maybe you're allowing your dog to bark his full head off in the backyard at everyone and anything that walks by the gate or the fence. And that is leading to some kind of high stimulation, easily triggered dog and a bad mindset. This is more than likely what you're seeing outdoors when the dog goes on a walk, and now you're calling me for this, and you're allowing this. You're contributing to the problem by allowing it to continue on and get practice and rehearsed. So just make a mental note of what's going on in the house, of whatever issue that you feel that you have with your dog, and you start questioning yourself, how could I possibly be contributing to this in some way? And stop that. Okay, just stop that. One sign of a dog who has developed some kind of issues, or a dog who can easily start developing some kind of issue, is the dog who gets easily stimulated. So easy stimulation. And these are dogs who can be very calm, maybe even, very seemingly relaxed in one moment, and then the next, like, they're all up, they're all hyper. Their breathing takes on a different form, their tongue may hold, they may even pant, or you may even see some kind of like very quick movements within their body. That's a change in mind shift. That's a mindset change, in other words. So your dog goes from a calm mindset into a very overly stimulated, hyper, over-the-top mindset. And that can be created. And that's often created by us. Now, some part of it could be genetic as well, but it's often created by us. Okay, so you want to be mindful of that. If you see that in a dog, it's one of the things that I'm going to tell you that you want to address. This is something that you want to focus on at all times. Always insist and reward for calmness, and you'll get it. The last thing that I will tell you on this note, because I don't want this to be very long, is that some of you are going to, when I say you're going to need to make a change in yourself in order to change the relationship that you have with your dog. And when I also say that that can be very difficult to some people, and it may be difficult to you, one of the things that leads to that difficulty is that we give a lot of love and affection, and we don't balance that out with firmness and guidance, okay? Or firm guidance, in other words, right? So leadership, in other words. And you do need that balance. I will tell you right now, you're going to set yourself up for a difficult time, if not complete failure, if you don't learn how to find that balance within yourself. And this is a little bit of soul searching, of internal questioning that you have to do with yourself. But if you will feel that you are the person who gives a lot of love, affection, and you have a very difficult time giving that kind of firmness, or that firmness is not what the dog considers to be firmness. You may think, oh, I'm being tough here, but your dog is saying, no, you're not, right? And you don't do that enough. You're not giving your dog any guidance. You're not balancing the right thing, okay? And it's almost in some sense like raising a child. I don't mean to humanize dogs. You definitely don't want to humanize your dog, but there are many parallels, many comparables to be made between raising a dog and raising a child, right? The standards, the ways of communicating, the way that you balance that kind of love and affection with rules and firmness towards the enforcement of those rules, right? So it's no different. So if you feel that you're leaning too heavily to one side, because leaning too heavily on either side, one extreme or another, is just as bad. So you can give firmness and guidance all the time, and very little in terms of affection and love. I don't think that's cool. I don't think that's right. And I don't think it's setting you up for the right relationship that you want with your dog. You want both. But the reason that I point out the love and affection is that for the vast majority of people who call on me, this is what they give. Love and affection, love and affection, love and affection. I'm going to be firm. Love and affection, love and affection, love and affection. Okay, I'm going to be firm. There's no balance. There's just no balance there. And the dog, again, is not stupid. If you have a problem with your dog, it's because your dog has figured out what the deal is with you, right? Your dog has figured out, you know what? You're not as tough as you think you are. And I'm going to be tougher. I'm going to be more stubborn. I'm going to be more insistent. I'm going to be more demanding. I'm going to be pushier. I'm going to get my way more than you think you're going to get your way. And you want to balance that out, okay? You cannot let that happen. Again, all the training, all the technique won't help you, because that will be your sticking point. You will get stuck right there in inability to transform yourself as the leader who is able to give both sides equally at any given time. Okay. So on that note, affection, when you give affection to a dog, it's really no different to a dog than stuffing his or her face with food and treats all the time. So obviously, if you have a dog and every single time that dog came to you, you stuff your dog's face with food, then most of us are going to know this is not good. This is not right. Like, first of all, I'm rewarding the dog for nothing. The dog's getting addicted to the food, becoming very heavily dependent on it, right? And it's just not good for him. It's not good for his body. The dog's going to get fat or whatever, unhealthy, right? Affection is no different to a dog. A dog can also get very heavily reliant, dependent on affection, right? So if you are accustomed to giving affection, then your dog can just see that as the equivalent of food, of a high value thing, item, or moment. Okay, and they don't see it in the same loving way as it. The dog is not recognizing or taking from this, oh, mom or dad loves me so much. They just like it. They just like the sensation of it. They may like the rubbing and all that stuff, the petting. And they become heavily dependent on it. Okay, and then some dogs have a difficult time, withdraws if you can, or if you must, when you start taking that affection away. So what I would suggest is that, again, make a note of yourself, keep yourself in check. If you feel that you are that kind of person who just gives a lot of affection, no firmness or not enough firmness, then you want to start kind of pulling back on the affection, okay? Because it's not going to serve you. There is a time and place for affection. Affection can be an incredibly powerful motivator for a dog. I use it all the time, but I use it sparingly, and I know when to use it. And I know when I'm going too far, because the dog is telling me you're going too far and I'm going to take advantage of you. And I don't want that, okay? So be mindful of that. Anyway, I'm going to leave it here. I think I've given you some kind of idea of what you're going to into for the next few days and weeks, where you're going to be starting. I don't mean this video to be like a clear explanation and definition of what you're going to be doing. We'll discuss that in person, one-on-one. I just want this to be to kind of general, across the board, maybe vague understanding of what you can expect moving forward and what is going to be asked and demanded of you and what's going to be required in order for you to make that change that you need to make in the dog, okay? So I hope that this helps. Reach out to me if you have any kind of questions about this, and then we'll catch you in the next video. All right, take care.